Greetings everyone, this is Danny Pang, and today I'm going to be reacting to Unbelievable Stuff They Didn't Teach You About Ancient Egypt by the infographic show. I've always been fascinated by the history and culture of the ancient Egypt, but I didn't have a lot of chance to read any of their literatures, so let's see what this video brings for me.
Egypt is considered by many historians to be one of the first great civilizations, and modern Egyptians can trace a national heritage that stretches back thousands of years. At its prime, Egypt was a true ancient superpower and a center of art, culture, and education. Many of its ancient monuments still rise up from the desert sands, and the pyramids are considered some of the oldest and grandest human structures still standing. The tombs of its long-dead pharaohs continue to mystify us with the allure of untold riches and priceless artifacts buried under the shifting sands.
Yeah, I suppose one of the most famous culture about the Egyptian would be the how they treat the pharaohs, their kings, and possibly other royalties after they die, like the pyramids, sphinx, and sarcophagus.
The curses that protect them terrify people around the world. But Egypt was also a pretty crazy place, and today we're going to find out just how nutters the Egyptians really were, and some of the crazy things they actually did. Lice is one of mankind's oldest companions, but today young children and their parents are the only ones at real risk of getting a lice infestation. Even if an infestation occurs, treatment is typically as simple as an over-the-counter shampoo that'll kill the tiny invaders and their eggs. Yet, in the Bible, they might as well have included a plague of lice as one of the great plagues that struck Egypt, because lice were literally everywhere. To cope with this human scalp-munching infestation, the Egyptians would shave every inch of body hair they could put a sharp knife to. That's the reason why Egyptians sported the cue ball look. But it wasn't just the men, it was the women as well. To cope with losing all their hair, the women would wear fashionable wigs that, once infested, could be easily tossed away. At least in ancient Egypt, you could be sure that the carpets did indeed match the drapes, because they were both infested with lice. In today,
That was a bit too much information. I don't know if any of you got that, but if you didn't, you have a pure soul.
In today's society, women have been for years making it pretty clear that they're fed up with being randomly catcalled on the street, and we can't blame them. Here's a pro tip for our male viewers. No woman ever thinks it's a compliment for you to leer at her or randomly tell her how beautiful she is. In fact, it's downright creepy. Yet the problem of catcalling is hardly new, and the Egyptians were as prolific catcallers as any modern sexually frustrated and socially inept male. The Greek historian Herodotus watched as Egyptians prepared for a religious festival in the city of Bubastis and gathered together.
Bubastis? I'll have to look that up what that is later.
With their families into boats. As they cruised down the Nile, the men on the boats would jeer at the women and shout at them, pulling up their garments to expose themselves. We guess that much like modern catcallers, ancient Egyptian men also held on to the hope that a random catcall would woo a woman so thoroughly that she would jump straight into their arms. After swimming across a crocodile-infested river, of course. At least modern women don't have to worry about men exposing themselves as they catcall. That's what texting is for. The ancient Egyptians weren't just skilled at working on the bodies of the dead, they were also quite advanced in the fields of medicine for their age. For example, women had an ancient type of pregnancy test where they would moisten a sample of barley and emmer wheat with their urine every day. If the barley grew, then that meant the woman was pregnant and it was likely going to be a boy. If the emmer wheat grew, then that meant the woman was pregnant with a girl. If neither grew, that woman wasn't pregnant. It might sound like snake oil, but the test has been confirmed by modern science to have been surprisingly effective. We've all seen pictures of ancient hieroglyphics portraying the ancient god pharaohs of Egypt as muscular and perfect specimens of humanity. After all, as the living incarnations of gods, how could they be anything short of physically perfect? Yet the reality is far from what was portrayed on the ancient walls. We're all familiar with tweaking a selfie to get our good side, and if we were completely honest on our dating profiles, we'd admit that maybe we don't look exactly the way we do in our photos. It turns out that the most egregious offenders of the fake selfie category, though, were the pharaohs, who ordered their artists to portray them as physically perfect while being massively obese. Priests ordered to prepare 3 banquets each day, and with each banquet overflowing with meats, wine, and all manner of cakes, the pharaohs grew to rather rotund proportions. Today their mummies have been discovered with clogged arteries, giant bellies, and huge fat folds. The Egyptians were so familiar with obesity that they produced medical text on its dangers as early as 1500 BC. Slim figures, however, were still the beauty standard of the day, so Egyptian royals would take laxatives 3 times a month. This would be in the form of castor oil, after which they would spend pretty much the entire day on the toilet. Sadly, this isn't how weight loss works, and it did little to curb their obesity. Though the real tragedy lies in the fact that plumbing hadn't been invented yet. We'll let your fertile imaginations paint that picture. As one of the most medically advanced ancient cultures, the Egyptians placed a premium on health and had doctors for every part of the body, much as we do today. Dentists worked on teeth, optometrists cared for eyes, and naturally the ancient Egyptians also had proctologists. Yet the Egyptian word for proctologist translated as shepherds of the anus. And despite all our advancements in modern medicine, we 100% need to go back to calling proctologists the shepherds of our anuses.
Yeah, we need to bring that back. Shepherd of our anuses.
With their limited understanding of medicine though, an anus shepherd had a pretty simple job, as giving enemas was pretty much the only solution available to what might have ailed you back then. Stomach problems? Stick some medicine up your anus. Constipated? Let's shepherd this concoction into your backside. Wife left you and took the dog and the divorce? Anus medicine. Enemas were all the rage in ancient Egypt, and they were so revered that they even had their own origin myth. The Greeks believed that the Titan Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to man, and for the Egyptians their god Thoth developed the enema, and then gave it to man as a gift.
If you were given these 2 gifts by gods, which one would you choose?
As far as usefulness goes, fire's done pretty alright by us, but I guess, thanks for the enemas. Schistosomiasis is a disease caused by a parasitic flatworm, which is brought on when the worms latch themselves to the intestines. The parasite enters the human body through contaminated water, and once inside the human body, the worms develop into maturity and release their eggs, which get flushed out of the body and back into the environment to repeat the life cycle. To say that the worms were endemic to ancient Egypt would be an understatement, as it's believed that the vast majority of the population was playing host to dozens of worms living inside of them. One of the symptoms of the infection is blood in the urine, and the parasites were so widespread amongst the Egyptians that it's believed that men also menstruated along with women. In fact, blood in a man's urine was seen as a sign of fertility, and we suppose in a way the ancient Egyptians were right, for the man was in fact full of life, just the creepy crawly deep in your guts kind of life. What other crazy things have you heard of the Egyptians doing? Let us know in the comments. Also, make sure you check out our other video.
Wow, that was completely eye-opening. I did not expect to see that, to learn about all these. Wow, it really did its title justice. Unbelievable things they didn't teach us in school. Well, they didn't teach us anything about ancient Egypt in school, but this, wow. Yeah, I was expecting to learn some ancient Egypt history, but this totally blew my mind. Mind blown. Just like that. Anyway, that's the end of that, and I'm hoping to look at more literature about ancient Egypt because I'm still very interested, and that was, although it was very informative, but that was not what I was looking for. It was fun, very fun, but a bit more not safe for all ages. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video.